The Dryad of the Woods by Vengel W. Chapter 1. Underneath. Felton slammed on his brakes, releasing a choir of screeching tires. His SUV stopped abruptly, narrowly missing the car ahead.
"Jesus, Dad!"
Ruth yelled.
"The hell?"
Felton gripped the steering wheel in an iron grip, feeling his heart pound a mile a minute. After a few seconds, he managed to release a sigh of relief. "You okay?"
"Barely. What the hell gives?"
"Language, young lady," she scoffed.
"Why isn't anyone moving?"
He squinted ahead, attempting to see through the frost-covered windshield. "Not sure. Thank God for four-wheel drive, huh?" Ruth groaned, rocking back and forth in her seat.
"Can we go already? I seriously have to pee."
"No one's moving, all right? I hope it ain't too serious. Think I ought to check it out just to make sure, though."
"What? Did you even hear me, Dad?"
"It'll only be a minute, Ruthie. You'll see now. I told you to go easy on the pumpkin lattes." She groaned louder, leaning into the dashboard, causing her auburn hair to cascade around her head in a twisted bunch. "You can handle a minute, or at least 20 out anyway. Besides, if it becomes too much, you do have the tree line," he joked. She quickly shot him a salty glare as he exited with a smile. Outside, he was met with the cool wind of the snowy mountains. It sparked a ripple of swaying trees that extended for miles into the horizon. Felton shivered, propping up his collar. Ahead, he could hear an angry voice shouting. The vehicle, a fancy Lincoln SUV, had a shattered headlight accented with a smashed front bumper. A foot ahead of it was a red Chevy truck inscribed with a minor dent in its rear. A man stood by the driver window, pounding on it.
"Hey, what the fuck is your problem?"
He yelled, smacking the glass again. He was clearly not from the area, no doubt a city fellow. It was like he was peeled right out of a white-collar movie. Combed back slick hair, dark shades, and an overcoat to top a nice suit.
"Open the fucking door!"
he went on. "Everything okay?" Felton spoke up as he approached. "Seriously, man?" He shot back, gesturing to his car. Poor choice of words, Felton thought. "How about we calm down so we can't figure out what happened?" The man continued to smack the glass.
"I'll tell you what happened. This cunt just ruined a $90,000 car. And she's gonna pay for it. Every fucking cent and more. I'm gonna sue you into the ground if you don't open up, you dumb bitch!"
Felton set his jaw. Nothing fueled him more than disrespect to a lady. In most cases, the easiest way to set an asshole in his place was a quick crack to the jaw. But he thought otherwise. There was no need to add fuel to this fire. Instead, Felton slid in between the suit and the truck. "All right, back off. She do what she needs to, but you're not helping anything. Give us some space. Now." The man noted his size difference to Felton, who owned a foot over him and was clearly gifted with more body mass. After a minute of glaring, he reeled out his phone and sauntered away. Felton turned back to the driver in the trunk. It was a woman, middle-aged with blonde hair. She was tightly gripping the wheel, facing ahead like a statue. Her eyes were glossy, and her face was paralyzed with grief. "Ma'am?" Felton tapped on the glass. "Can you roll down the window?" She remained fixed, though. So, Felton tapped a little harder, which seemed to awaken her. The woman turned his way slightly, eyeing him with a blank stare, and slowly complied. "You all right, ma'am?" She remained silent, opting to simply shake her head. "Well, are you hurt?" Again, she shook her head. "Okay, good. What's your name, then?"
Carol,"
she finally stammered. "Nice to meet you, I'm Felton. Now, I'm just trying to find out what happened is all. Why'd you slam your brakes? You lose traction on her?"
No."
"Okay, how about the engine? It stall on you?"
"No."
Is...
My truck is fine,
she snapped.
I know how to handle it, goddammit.
All right, just checking, Felton replied with his hands up. If everything's so dandy, then what happened? You see something on the road or what? Instantly, Carol's eyes flashed and she slowly nodded. What do you see, a deer?
No, I saw...
Tears started welling up in her eyes.
I saw a kid. Oh God, I think I hit a kid.
She swallowed.
I couldn't stop in time. I swear to God I tried.
Felton grimaced. You're probably mistaken.
Just out of nowhere they did.
The woman interrupted with a quivering lip. A tear rolled down her cheek.
I don't want to check. I can't. Please don't make me.
She was clearly shaken by the ordeal. There was no way a kid could be out here in these parts, but Felton nodded solemnly. He figured he'd indulge her to keep everything calm. It's fine, just stay put, Carol. I'll check for you. Felton swallowed and slowly crouched down. His heart got to pounding again, though. Why are my nerves shaking like this? He thought. Ain't nothing gonna be down there. As he peered underneath, the frigid wind rushed against his face, forcing his eyes to water. He glanced ahead, bracing for a horrid sight. Around the first two tires, he saw nothing. No blood or any evidence pointing to a supposed body. He chuckled to himself in relief. However, when he scanned further back, he noticed a dark bulge near the far rear tire. Felton recoiled, feeling a knot grow in his stomach. He squinted at it, but it was hard to make it out from this angle. The knot tightened when he'd realized he'd need to get closer to get a better look. In no hurry, he edged his way around to the rear passenger. As he approached the bulge, the wind made another pass, swaying what appeared to be clothing. "Dear Lord," he whispered.
You see anything?
Carol stammered. Felton ignored her, though, crouching down to it. It couldn't be a kid. It was impossible. It had to be something else. A small animal at worst. Time felt stagnant as he got lower. All the while, his mind attempted to deconstruct the body into something else. But he couldn't shake the original thought. A crushed kid. He slowly extended his hand towards it, feeling every cell in his body object the action until he touched it. Immediately he flinched, but was then filled with instant reprieve. "It's not a kid," he relayed up, "or an animal." He heard Carol exhale. It sounded as if she'd been holding it in since the beginning. Felton reeled the object from underneath the car and into the light, staring at it with a puzzled look. He carefully brought it over to the driver's side. Carol noticed it and gave off the same confused expression.
What is that?
She asked. He shook his head, unable to answer. It was a strange bale of twigs held loosely together by twine in several areas. Despite being a disheveled heap, it appeared as if it had once formed a shape, but it was hard to tell what now. Admittedly, Felton was more disturbed than confused. This thing didn't seem like something one would find up in the wilderness. Not naturally, at least. He quickly tossed it off of the road. The suit from earlier returned.
"Shit, I can't get a fucking signal to the cops," he stated, pocketing his cell phone. "Now, did you see correctly that the chick ruined my car because she ran over a tree?"
"A bushel of twigs, to be exact," Felton corrected him. "You're not going to get anything out here. Passed through here enough times to know." The man scoffed.
"Great. What the fuck are we supposed to do then? Alex Cartfield is a very important man and he has places he needs to be."
"Who the hell is Alex Cartfield?" Felton asked, setting his jaw again.
"Alex Cartfield is me," he stated, jabbing a thumb into his chest.
"You always refer to yourself in the third person?" He scoffed again.
"Look, just tell me how we can get a signal out here."
Felton bit his lip, but answered grudgingly. "There's a rest stop 10 miles out. They got a landline you can use to call the sheriff." You have to go inland a bit, but it shouldn't be too hard to reach.
I can probably find it, Carol chimed in. I don't mind leading if I have to.
The suit shot her a glare.
Fuck no, I'm not trusting you to lead jack shit. You can't even tell the difference between a kid and a fucking tree.
She sank into a seat. Hey now, ease up, Felton spoke up. How about I lead then? I know the layout and I'm heading up to that spot anyhow. Shouldn't take no more than 30 minutes if we ride slow. The man contemplated the thought and then nodded. Smooth peaches then. Hang tight and let me grab my car. The man left for his SUV. Felton was about to follow when Carol held out a hand to him.
Hey, they got coffee up in this place?
I'm a wreck without it. Sure do. Sam's a keeper. He knows a thing or two about a good pot. Best brew for miles. She smiled.
Cool. And thanks for stepping in when you did. Not sure what I was going to do.
Felton nodded in acknowledgement. Immediately, the chilly wind summoned another shiver from him, prompting him to push forward, catching a glare from the suit as he passed. As he approached the SUV, something caught his eye in the distant tree line. He squinted through the white mist and was surprised to see what looked like a figure. A short, child-sized one. It stood unmoving near the edge of the trees, seemingly staring back at him. "Hey, do you see?" he said, turning back, but it was obvious that neither would be able to hear him. He turned to see the tree line and immediately his heart dropped. The figure had moved closer. In the second he had looked away, it had managed to jump from its previous location, but it wasn't just a few feet. It had to be at least a mile or so. That was impossible, though. The hairs on his neck pricked up. Felton soon began to hear faint whispers, as if someone spoke just out of earshot. Was someone calling out to him? Again he checked behind, but it didn't seem to be from the others. No, he thought. Just the wind playing tricks. As his eyes fell back on the figure, he noticed it jumped even closer. At this point, Felton was ready to bolt to his car, but his body felt paralyzed, paranoia washing over him like a wave. He started to feel what he could only describe as an emptiness in his stomach, like a cold hollowness expanding within him like a knot in a tree. The voices grew louder this time, seemingly repeating a word, but he couldn't decipher it. Where were they coming from? What was happening to him? Suddenly, a loud car horn startled him.
"Come on, Dad," Ruth shouted from the window. "I need to piss."
Felton blinked for a second, feeling as if he'd been woken from a dream. The cold air finally settled back in, and he could feel the sting of a kiss lingering across his face, as if he'd been bearing it for hours. He glanced back at the tree line, but the figure, whatever it was gone. Was it ever there? The emptiness? What the hell was that? It felt like... He had no time to dwell on it, though, as Ruth leaned on the horn again. He gave one final scan of the trees and shook the thought away, continuing to the SUV. Chapter 2. Thunder.
"Well, I'll be a warm match on a cold night. Felton, is that you?"
"How you doing, Sam?" The old man set aside his broom and hobbled over to Felton into a heartfelt hug. It must have been concerning for those observing to see this bear of a man hug the scrawny older one, seemingly on the verge of breaking the latter.
"I was wondering when Felton Banks was going to swing by this old lodge and give this old friend some company. Can't even recall the last time you blessed these parts."
The lobby of the lodge was big, well lit by its many big windows. It was cramped wall to wall with dated furniture, mainly comprised of leather comforts embroiled with creases that rivaled Sam. They were huddled in groups around chipped coffee tables like a campfire site. Every inch of the walls was heavily ornated with old knickknacks and taxidermized animal heads that filled the air with a musty scent of pine.
"Well, I'll be. Look at you all grown up,
Sam said, eyeing Ruth.
You're almost as tall as your pa.
She grinned sheepishly at the comment. She knew her height was nowhere near her father's towering one, yet she still rendered a hug to the old man.
Hey, Sammy.
You look like a stunning reflection of your mother, too,
Sam went on, looking her up and down.
Felton, what you been feeding her? I swear, children be growing too doggone fast these days.
Only the good stuff. But she's been dying to eat your grilled cheddars again. Sam scoffed.
I done told you the recipe how many times? Still ain't got it yet?
It ain't the same, Sam. Nothing beats... Excuse me, Alex interrupted. I hate to jump between this little reunion, but I need a phone so I can call the sheriff. I got places I need to be. Now you have one or not? Sam's brow tightened as his eyes bared a salty glare.
Sammy?
Ruth chimed in, hobbling in place.
Sorry to cut this short too, but I really need to use the ladies' room anyway.
His face lightened.
You still remember where the bathroom is, right? On the second floor, darling. To the right on the end. Just got it refurbished, too.
She thanked him and hurried off. Old man, Alex interrupted again. The phone? The scowl returned to Sam. He clenched his fist and started to walk towards him until Fenton stepped in between. Looky here, Sam. These two had a bit of fender bender down the road. You know how that can be. Even in the heat, nothing can melt taut like that. If you give him what he needs, he'll be out of your hair before you know it. Sam exchanged a glance from Felton to the uptight prick and then sighed.
Phone's on the second, too. In the diner. Come on, then. I'll whip some of those grilled cheddars. Anything else you want? Any of y'all gonna need a room?
He led the group to the staircase in the back. As stated, there was a small diner at the top, housing several tables and booths. Off to the side was a miniature-sized room resembling the lobby with a few comforters and even more knickknacks covering the walls. Sam pointed to the wall next to the counter.
There's your phone. Sheriff's number's posted on the side.
The suit stormed over to it. Sam hobbled behind the counter.
So, I got 2 grilled cheddars for you and Ruthie. Anything else?
He asked.
Can I get a coffee?
A soft woman's voice spoke up. Her presence startled him.
Sorry there, missy. Didn't see you tailing the pack. 1 cup of Java coming up. Pot's fresh, too. Oh, and that'll be $2.50.
Felton glanced back to see her render a sheepish grin. This was the first time he'd really taken in her appearance. She was a short woman, rivaling Ruth in height, with golden locks nesting around her ears. She had a face plastered with freckles and eyes greener than moss. She was certainly a looker and a thin one, donning a minty green and white sweater. He noted the large stain of coffee on it. So, is it salvageable? The sweater, I mean. Coffee always seems drawn to a shirt like skeet on a neck. She glanced down at it and chuckled.
Oh, this? Yeah, it's a crock. My favorite, too. But my mama knows a thing or two about stains. This'll be nothing to her.
Your mama, huh? That why you cutting through the pass? Let's see. From the way you hold yourself, I'd say you to be a Nebraskan girl, right? She gave an impressed look.
Am I that obvious? Or did you just look at my plates?
He laughed. I might have peeked at it, he admitted. She smiled, shaking her head.
Well, yeah, I'm a Nebraska girl. Born and raised. And yeah, I'm on my way to see my mama. It was Felton, right?
Yes, ma'am. Felton Banks, he said, offering a hand. Carol, if I remember.
Yeah, Carol Swan, she replied, taking it. You seem to know the innkeeper pretty well. I take it you're from around these parts?
Something like that. Me and Ruthie used to come through here every year to do some hunting.
Ruthie? I take it she's your daughter?
Yes, ma'am. She's 16 years of pain in my ass. Carol snickered. In all seriousness, though, I love her to death. She's my pride and light. Don't know what I'd do without her.
That's nice.
What about you? Any kid yourself?
Me?
None. To be honest, I'd say I'm still a kid at heart. That is so. Sam set a mug of hot Joe on the counter, and Carol quickly slid the exact payment his way. He popped it into the register and made his way back into the kitchen. Felton eyed her as she lifted the mug and took a small sip. Well? She smiled and took another one. I'd say it's damn good indeed. You hear that, Sam? Felton called into the back. Found you another believer.
Mighty obliged.
Felton caught her staring over at Alex on the phone, who was obnoxiously yelling at the sheriff, occasionally tossing a glance back her way like a guard dog. So how you feeling? Still a bit shaken up to say the least. Most of it's a blur now. You gonna be alright? She nodded softly, taking another sip. I'm starting to second guess what happened out there, thinking maybe I dozed off and slammed the brakes when I realized it. Thank you again for stepping in. I know I already said that. I just really thought that guy was gonna clock me or something. Felton chuckled. Don't worry about him. Assholes like to talk big game, but he ain't gonna touch you.
Yeah, damn Skippy, that's all they do.
Sam chimed in, returning to the counter.
Lousy good for nothing.
At least, I wouldn't let him. She chuckled. So, is that your angle? The big, strong guardian, checking up on everyone, fighting back one asshole at a time, stranger or not? He sneered. We're all people at the end of the day, just trying to make our own way. Some just feel the need to be buttheads just because. Me, I just do what I can.
Well, what you need to do is keep that kind of trouble away from
His words were cut off by a small tremor. The glasses and silverware started to rattle. Even the knickknacks on the walls began to shake. Felton turned to Carol to see her eyes widen in fear. Felt like the rumbling from an earthquake.
What the?
Alex shouted, pulling the phone away. The tremor escalated into a more violent shake, like the entire building was encased within a snow globe. Suddenly, a loud thunder exploded into the air, forcing Carol to instinctively grab onto Felton as the lights started to flicker erratically. More lamps and other loose items continued to shake until they crashed onto the ground, followed by tables sliding across the floor. The walls joined the choir of roaring, adding a deep moan.
Sam, what the hell's going on?
Felton screamed, his voice barely carried over the thunder of noises.
Not sure,
he shouted back. His eyes drifted over to the window.
Oh, shit!
Yet his words were interrupted by a heavy thud against the building which drew everyone to the ground. Several windows shattered from the impact, launching glass in all directions. The walls moaned even louder, accompanied by the splitting of wood and furniture slamming up against them. Felton held on tightly to Carol on the floor as the chaos around them continued to erupt. After several more seconds, the tremors slowly began to die. The rattling soon ceased, and everything settled. Felton slowly looked up. Glass and other knickknacks from the walls were sprawled out on the floor. A few tables overturned. He glanced down at Carol, who was buried in his chest. You alright? He asked her. She poked her head up, her face plastered with fear. Yeah. What happened? She spoke softly. It was as if she was afraid her own voice would kickstart another episode.
Everyone else okay?
Felton called out. Sam poked out from behind the counter, eyes in a frenzy as he studied the damaged ground. Alex emerged as well, cursing to himself.
Ruth!
Felton called out.
Ruthie, are you okay?
There was a second of delay before her voice carried out from the halls in the back.
Dad!
She called out, emerging. She ran up to him and into his arms. Are you all right, darling? Are you hurt? She had tears in her eyes. No, I'm fine. What the hell happened? What was that?
Sweet Jesus,
Sam said out loud. He tore from around the corner and over to one of the broken windows. Alex joined him, more curses under his breath. Curious, Felton made his way over too, not removing his grip from Ruthie with Carol in tow. He approached the window and his heart dropped at the sight. For miles, snow engulfed the trees like a white ocean. Broken branches and uprooted trunks could be seen sticking out of the mix. It was an avalanche. The group stared silently in awe at the sight, until a splash of snow from the roof drew Felton's attention to the windowsill. He noticed the snow had stopped just a few feet below the opening. His heart sank even lower at this revelation. If the snow had reached this high, that meant that their cars were submerged.